Hi everyone, welcome to the channel on College Process. Once again, my name is Ed from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going over, can I get a tuition refund from my students' college if they drop out? Now, if you're new to the channel and looking for additional college content, please hit the subscription button down below. It will notify you when new videos do come out, as well as we are still running the James Wilson Memorial Scholarship. If you're new to our channel, we have a scholarship program that we run here called the James Wilson Memorial Scholarship. If you want more information about how our scholarship program works, for seniors graduating going off to college, very simple. To get more information about this video here for our program, down below in the description is the link explaining how our scholarship program works here at Principia. Now, all that being said, let's go right into today's video. Can I get a tuition refund from my students' college if they drop out? Now, as many of you guys know out there, a famous quote being that we make plans and then God laughs is a famous quote basically illustrating that we can make whatever plans we want in life. And sometimes things work out, or sometimes things go in a direction that we had no idea we're going to go into whatsoever. And the reason I say it that way is because a lot of students go off to college, and as many of you may or may not know, a lot of them either do not finish where they started, or they transfer, or for whatever reasons, things don't work out, and then everything kind of just falls apart. Good, bad, or indifferent. Sometimes it's because the roommate sucks, sometimes because the student's not mature enough to be at that college, sometimes they're homesick, sometimes they miss their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whatever the situation is, sometimes things just don't work out. I actually had, many years ago, a student who dead set thought they'd love the college, they were gonna go there, they loved it, the parents put everything to a U-Haul, they drove a bunch of hours to drop the student off, dropped them off, halfway home, a few hours back in that U-Haul, student called them up, freaking out, they didn't want to be there, parents turned right around, got them back in the U-Haul, put everything back in the U-Haul basically, and then went back home. Now, obviously, that's an outlier. That doesn't happen often, obviously. The reality is, though, a lot of students, for whatever reason, sometimes the first couple days, the first week, the first month, doesn't really work out. And they decide this is not the place for me for whatever reason. Maybe they don't find a friend group, maybe they don't feel comfortable in the environment, maybe the environment they're in academically is not the right place for them, maybe they thought something that actually isn't what they thought it was when they were going to be going there, whatever the situation is. So one thing I tell parents all the time, by the way, this is usually something I tell in the beginning of September, usually the end of August, right before the student gets dropped off, is you always want to contact the school's billing office, usually known as either the bursar's office or the records office, or in some cases just the billing office. And you can ask them before you start dropping your students off, or even if you have dropped your student off and they're telling you something's not really fitting in here, they don't feel comfortable for whatever reason, and you as a parent, by the way, I'm a parent of two nowadays, believe it or not. In many of the videos you see our oldest here, Sebastian, and then we also have Jack here now as well, so now we have two of them. So when these guys go to college, obviously the college cost will be probably something in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'll discuss, obviously that's a discussion for a later topic, but obviously I'm a parent, so I understand how parents think nowadays. Now, that being said, let's say you want to pull your student out, and you're like, you know what, they've been in school for a week, they've been in school for 2 weeks, what do we do? Do we get a refund? Can we get a refund? Is it possible? If we took a loan out, how does all this stuff work? Very simple. If you contact the records office, or you can also contact, in many cases for this information, the admissions or financial aid office, you can ask them what their refund policy is, which is an important thing to do before typically you drop your student off. And obviously, if you already dropped them off or they already started their term, you can still contact these offices and ask them what their refund policy is. Now, the way it works is typically if the student leaves within the first week or two, you get 90% of your basically initial investment back. That's essentially the way it works. So let's say that they're for a week or 2 weeks. In many cases, they're going to cover you or going to cost you basically 10% of what the cost would have been, and the other 90% is going to be refunded back to you. Now, if you took a loan out, basically what will happen is that loan will be sent back to the lender. So let's say the school costs $20,000 a year, just to make the math easy, okay? What happens is, if it costs $20,000 a year, you guys aren't charged up front $20,000 a year. Most schools are semester-based, 2 different semesters, fall and spring. So the school costs $20,000 for the academic year. That fall semester would have cost you $10,000. If you have your student taken out, let's call it 3 or 4 days in, and you had a loan for the whole $10,000, what would happen is the school would take $1,000 of that and send $9,000 back to the lender. So you still technically owe $1,000 to whatever lender you borrowed from, whether it's a state loan, a federal loan, whether it's a private loan, College Ave, Sallie Mae, etc. You're going to owe them $1,000. Now, once you guys go past that 2-week period, in many cases, this is where it starts to get into the unfortunate scenario of many of you will actually be asked to pay the entirety of that semester, to pay the whole fall semester. Now, the spring semester is irrelevant because the spring semester hasn't started yet. So you're freaking out thinking, oh my goodness, they want to leave. It's only been 14 days, 15 days. They're already telling us they're not giving you a refund. What they mean by they're not giving you a refund is they're not giving you that semester refund. If you're looking at the quarterly school, it's that quarter. If you're looking at trimesters, like a SCAD or a Drexel, these are schools that are not traditional 2 semesters. These are quarterly and trimesters. Then that first period, payment term, that money after that first 2 weeks is gone, unfortunately. The rest of the money, though, is there. So if you borrowed it, it will be sent directly back to the lender. If you paid out of pocket, that's obviously pay you back in the form of a refund check. So if you're worried about it and you're not sure about your student and everything else, and you feel like just taking them out because things don't seem like they should be going the way they should be going in your mind or their mind, it's perfectly fine. Now, some people say you should push them along and say to them, look, try to finish the semester, which I agree to a certain point. But as a parent, I also see things differently. There's some times where I know I can push my son to do certain things, and there's certain periods and times where I feel like it's not the right scenario to push him at this point in time. Obviously, he's a lot younger than the kids that you guys have now out there, the 19, 20, 21-year-olds, 18, 17-year-olds, etc. He's only 5 at this point in time, so I understand it's a difference in mentality and everything else. For me, one of the most important things to do before I drop my student off or when they're dropped off in the beginning is always to check with either the billing office, financial aid, or admissions and figure out when is a refund possible and what are the amounts possible to be given. Once you know that information, you can make a better educated decision on whether your student should stay there or not stay there. And obviously as a parent, if you don't feel that it's comfortable for you to have them stay there, it's only money at the end of the day. And once again, you're only losing part of it because it's only the semester. And best case scenario, obviously, if you pull them out early enough, it won't be that big of a hit. But even if you do take a hit and have to pay for the whole semester, in my view and the way I look at things is, with students being as stressed as they are every day, with all the different nuances in the world and life and everything else, if I had to take that hit, I'm okay taking that hit financially for that semester if I had to pull them out, just to make sure that mentally wise, their mental health is there and they're capable of moving on to another school and doing well, or maybe even coming back to that school. After taking a break, maybe after taking some time and figuring out what they need to do, possibly talking to the academic advising center at that college too, to get a path forward if they decide to go back. What can we do to make the student academically thrive at your college? So there are avenues here if you need assistance, obviously. And that being said, if you do need help, obviously I do help out a lot of families throughout the entire college process with both admissions and financial aid. If you do need help, on the screen, as you can see here, is my contact information. If you need assistance, please feel free to send me a message. You can either text me or email me. Those are the 2 fastest way, by the way, of reaching me. You can call if you like, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, especially when the academic year starts, between myself dealing with families needing help that I already have helping out, as well as guidance officers, college advisors out there, as well as the different high schools I work with. But I do provide meetings through Zoom. So obviously if you need assistance, please feel free to reach out. And once again, my name is Ed from Principia Prep. Thank you for watching today's video.